From over there?
Yep. Actually, I'll be right here. State your name and what brought you to Hamilton today.
My name is Crystal Cox, and I come down here to see the local judge to try to get a protective order because I got a death threat, and I feel that the gentleman that gave me the death threat, he lives in Stevensville. He works at the University of Montana, and I came down here seeking help from the local judge.
Did you receive it?
No, they told me it was out of their jurisdiction. They refused to give me an order because he wasn't a family member and other reasons the judge gave me. And so, no, I still don't have a protective order. And the Lincoln County courts wouldn't give me one either. Guess I shouldn't say that, huh?
What's the start of all this? What started all this? What's
Well,
your background? Yeah.
We're running a recall for the sheriff in Eureka, Montana. And this man, Sean Boucher, wrote a letter to the editor trashing the recall. And he named this gentleman named Paul Stramer and concealed weapons. So I wrote a post about him on my blog that said the recall was about meth, it's about rape, it's about real crimes not being prosecuted, and it's not about any one particular person. And, you know, I called him a coward and an idiot, which, you know, is a little bit inflammatory, but I feel that he was unjust in what he was saying. So then from there, he sent me a death threat to permanently put me down and a whole bunch of other sick stuff, and I took it to a local judge, and she refused me an order. And so I came to Hamilton to try to get a protective order because he lives in Stevensville, like I said, works in Missoula at the University of Montana, and he's moving back up to Eureka. He owns property in Eureka, but they told me it wasn't their jurisdiction, even though the cop here told me it probably is in their jurisdiction, but I should go to Missoula, where the crime happened, where the email supposedly came from, and talk to the cops there and get the cops to write a report and then come back here and get the judge to get me a temporary order. He said based on his experience.
Sounds like quite a web.
It is.
Having to jump around to different counties and different jurisdictions for justice. Okay, why can't you file an order of protection with Missoula?
I haven't tried to file an order of protection with Missoula, but frankly, I give up.
Cut, sorry. About 15 seconds. What did you say? You sound...
I'm not getting any justice, and I'm going to give up. I'm not going to Missoula. I'm done. I'm not going to go to the Missoula police. I've went everywhere. I have stats that I honestly believe that there's a cop involved in Eureka. I'm afraid of the cops. I'm afraid of this man, so I'm just going to wait. For what, I don't know. But I've told the University of Montana that this man's threatened me. I've provided weeks' worth of stats, hour after hour. I have the state of Montana involved. That the other guy that is sent me hate mail. I have proof that it's coming from the IP address of the Mitchell Building in Helena. The state of Montana is, they said they'd help me, but nobody's helping me. Meanwhile, I got a death threat, and I'm just like waiting to die, and nobody will help me. So I thought I'd try Hamilton, but I'm not getting any help here either. So
Because Hamilton's the county seat, and you thought that Stevensville being in that county, you'd be able to get some...
Because he lives here in Stevensville, yep. So I understand that the cops they can only do what they can do if it's true. If the judge really should have given me an order, and I have that right to have that, then I feel violated. But if it's within the law that the judge, said if he has to be a family member, I have to live with him, I don't really understand why I can't have protection if I'm not family. He threatened to kill me and permanently put me down. He said that means exactly what it implies.
What was the permanent put down?
That he permanently... Can I read you that part?
Please.
He said he's the only guy that carries more ammo than another guy that he'd named. So at some point you're going to lose it, and we will have to take you down. Yes, that means just what it implies. Or somebody is going to get pissed off enough to shut you up permanently. I hope I'm there to see it. And so, that, and there's a whole bunch of other just sick and vile stuff. And I provided all the stats to where the email came from. And I'm going to pursue this in civil court.
Where are the emails coming from?
This email here?
Any of them? Any of these
I have emails, I have hate mail coming from the Mitchell Building in Helena, room 6. And it's a state IP address. So any city court or district court in the state of Montana would use that IP address. That's why I believe it's a cop in Eureka. One cop searched his name. I have it all online. I've put it on Congressman Ryberg's Facebook page. I've sent it to all the people in the University of Montana. I've sent it to my local commissioner. I've sent it to a detective in Lincoln County. I've sent those stats to everybody I can think of for help to prove that he's stalking me. And I have this, and nobody will help me.
Okay, the Mitchell Building, what is that? For those
Well,
of us who've never been to Helena.
I didn't know either, so I called him and told him I got a death threat and I needed help. So the IT guy called me to help me with this, and he said what happens is it's basically just a room where all of the Montana IPs, anybody who's on mt.gov, so all of the city courts and the justice courts are linked in with the Supreme Court, and basically it's just a room in Helena that does the technical support, the internet, correspondence for all of these different places. So it's definitely somebody within the city court or the district court level system that's stalking me. I've proved it every day, but they know they're above the law. They must know they have the sheriff in their pocket. They must know they have the judge in their pocket because they are not afraid. I've listed on the site. I've listed the sites online right now, and they're still there today, right now. University of Montana's done nothing. State of Montana's done nothing. Nobody will stop them, and they're still on my site, and they're searching for the same things that they've put in these hate blogs about me. This under the same username, they're searching it. I have proof of all of that, and nobody will listen to me. So.
Read that other one that said about the moral sin.
That's not.
The moral, that's not.
That's not in mine.
Okay.
I can. That's
okay.
to do with them too. Yeah, I was asked to. This email has just a whole lot of hate, and this email has the same theme: calling me a coward, talking about the local officer, the lady officer in Eureka, and talking about it's got 3 common elements as the email I got out of the IP address in the Mitchell Building. But to be honest with you, this particular email, as of today, I don't know where it's coming from. I've got all the stats to prove where it's coming from. But this email goes through Spain and California. It's somebody that technically knew what they were doing. But the other hate mail that's similar is tracked to the Mitchell Building. I will have an answer to this within a week because I'm filing a civil lawsuit next week, and I'm getting the IP address of Crystal Cox is a bitch at yahoo.com, which is the email he sent me from.
And repeat that again, please.
Crystal Cox is a bitch at yahoo.com. This Sean Boucher put in the letter to the editor, someone needs to watch the Lincoln County Watch. Well, that's the name of this blog. Watch lincolncountywatch.blogspot.com. Now, this blog he's dropped because the judge asked him if he owned it. He said no, he dropped it, but I have a permanent record of it. SANDPTCPL is his username on it. So we're subpoenaing Google to get the identity of that, and I've also he searches that on his site. He searches it on my blog, and I have proof of that. And some of these same sentences are the sentences in my death threat. And he also did this review of me on Great Realty USA, and it says some of the same sick stuff, which is just too sick to even say. And he does it in someone else's name, but it's the same words. Mm-hmm. And if you've seen it, you'd know those words, and I'm not going to say them.
Right.
So I have pretty much a whole ton of technical evidence.
So why is this person so pissed off at you?
He's upset with his father-in-law, I think, and he's taking it out on me. I think, to be honest with you, I think that he wrote a letter to the editor against the recall. This is my opinion and what I believe, that the sheriff or cop, somebody called him and is helping him to set up his father-in-law, Paul Stramer, in order to discredit one of the points that is on the recall, which is denying Paul Stramer's concealed weapon permit. If they can do that, get a protective order, they can take all his guns and deny the permit and therefore make the recall unjust. Meanwhile, he's giving me death threats and he has a concealed weapon permit.
I know several other cases very similar to that. In fact, at least one of which I know that he did get his property. taken. Let's talk about the rapes.
Well, there's been, gosh, like 11 or 14 of them that are documented, but there's been like 40 rapes. People, they're still happening in Eureka, they're ignoring them. The paper's lying about it, the commissioner's lying about it, and nobody will prosecute the ones that they have. You know, that the women are stopping needing to come forward. They've upped the staff in Libby at the hospital to deal with rape kits. You know, it's obviously going on, but they're still letting it. This one business in Eureka does the drug to men and women, and everybody knows it, and nobody can do anything about it. The basic thing is that if they would take one of the crimes and one of the rapes and actually prosecute the people that did it, people might be happy about it, but instead they keep lying about it. The local paper's lying about everything. Right now they're lying about a local officer and just totally ruining her life. Just lying and pushing her out of town. So I'm just a whistleblower. You know, I'm just writing about giving people a voice that aren't heard. I don't have a different side. I'm not a conservative, I'm not a liberal, I'm not a Republican. I mean, to be honest with you, let's come out here. I've never even voted. I don't vote. I just blog. I'm a truth seeker. I'm telling the truth on all sides. I don't have no political motive. I don't have no sheriff I want in. I'm just seeking the truth, and I want to tell the victim stories. I want to get heard. And now I got my own death threat, and so you know what? I want to get heard, and I don't believe it. I won't get a restraining order. I won't get any justice. I won't get heard by anybody. But I have 1,000 blogs, and I will get heard by the people who do care. And so that's my mission. This is the truth. You want to shut it off or you think the next question? Okay. It's just really sick. It's so vile and sick. I wished it was a year ago and I didn't know this stuff. I would give anything to go back in time and not know, because I just wanted to stick up for this one woman that had been raped, that I knew her as a baby. And so I wanted to stick up for her. Well, all these other rape victims come in. And now I have people anonymously chatting me. I have council members in Libby calling me. I have people sending me mail. I have people talking to me in the streets, people calling me and telling me the sickest stories I never would have wanted to know. There's been 4 suicides in the Yak, and a couple of them were a bullet to the back of the head and no gun. You know, they call them the Montana suicides. And then I get stories from Ferguson County that there's a bunch of suicides there. I'm getting stories from all over the state. People are calling me, and I didn't really want to do what I'm doing now. This isn't what I saw myself doing, but now everybody's looking at me as the voice, because nobody will listen to them. So I have all these sites, LibbyMontanaNews.com, EurekaMontanaNews.com. I'm just all over the internet, and I got all these stories, and I'm just telling the truth about what's happening to the victims. And nobody's listening to them. And this, I mean, sick. The one girl, I posted it online. She lived in a dirt floor up Trigo. Her dad raped her. Her dad killed her dog. This was like 8 years ago. Nobody ever did anything. I got people coming out of the woodwork from 20 years worth of stuff. Now I'm up against a mountain so dark, there's no way I could ever hope to help anybody. But if I don't get to the end, I'm just going to get to the end of the recall. And if the people don't want help, I'm moving on. I'm not, this is not...
Well, don't you think they want help? They just don't know how to do it. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing.
They won't sign the recall because they're scared, literally to death. Many of them are getting death threats, they've told me. So what I posted on my blog, to be nice about it, is say, oh, the economy's going to boom in Libby, Montana because there's going to be mass grave digging. They can't kill everybody. But they're literally afraid of economic ruin and of people threatening their lives, and so they won't sign it. But they'll tell you all about it, and you see them in the streets, you see them everywhere, but nobody will stand up with us. And so then I look like I'm just lying, or, you know, but I lived in Lincoln County my whole life. The W.R. Grace thing, I could go on for days. There is no justice there. There is, the state of Montana, there are no victims unless the court says you're a victim by law. So I hear all these sick, horrible stories, so what I want to do is give them a voice. And now that I got all these women and some of these men and these animals on my back, I'm not the type of person to just hide under my bed while bad things happen to other people. I'm going to come out and I'm going to fight. And if I lose my life for it, then I do. But I won't die a coward, and I'm not a fence rider. And in the days that are here now, we can't. The fence is dissolving. There's no way. You have to pick a side. And
what are the sides?
Right now, I just went to Rayberg's thing. I have to agree. It's this urban versus rural. It's not conservative versus, because it's so funny. I'm not, anybody that knows me know I'm so not Christian. I'm so not, conservative, but those are the people standing up behind me. And I would consider myself more Democrat than Republican, but audacity for change my ass. All the Democrats are screwing up in my county. And the only ones that are behind me now and standing up and willing to fight for me are the conservatives, which is shocking me because me, I'm just not I don't fit into that. So basically, I'm not in this to be anti-government, though Homeland Security watches me all the time. A chopper was in my yard yesterday. You know, not for me, but to look at the airport facility. But I don't want to get into that zone of be all freaked out and paranoia and conspiracy theory and everybody's sending me all this stuff. I just want to tell the truth and tell people stories and really help people and try to help make people's lives better. I don't want the cops to be enemies. I don't hate cops. Though if a stranger pulled up behind me and needed something, I'd rather that happen than a cop. I'm scared to death of the cops. The cops in Eureka, when I was a teenager, pull you over. The cops in Lincoln County, and I'm hearing it all over the state, will pull you over and will offer to trade sexual favors to get out of your ticket. I've had people tell me stories that in Libby that they've actually filed against the county attorney because that happened to their daughter. And Sheriff Anderson let his son-in-law go. This is documented. Sheriff Anderson's had 4 wives. He's beat them all. The cops tell the stories, but he never gets into any trouble. His wife's embezzled money from Libby Drug. People email me and tell me all these stories, and nobody cares. And now they all think it's me. So if I walk into a room and turn a light on, does that mean I created what's happening in the room? No, I'm just showing a light on it. I don't hate anybody. I'm not anti-government. I'm not anti-police. I'm just the truth.
Perfect.
Pause.
God damn. Good timing too. We got.
It was then that I saw the wisdom of the founding fathers, just to be honest with you. Because if I can't even fix something that's clearly rotten at the county level, right here in my own little neck of the woods, what the hell am I going to do to the UN? You know, it sounds like this wonderful organization that, you know, the world, we're going to get peace and all that, but you get a few rotten apples and it's just over.
This is the town I've lived in for the past 4 months. It's a lot like your town, big or small. In fact, it is your town. This is Hamilton, Montana. This is the land of 3 months of surprisingly hot summer, a month of perfect spring, and fall is packed somehow into 2 scant weeks of exuberant, almost New England color and crisp air. Then, of course, there's Montana winter, 6 months of it. But it's the other 6 months and the awe-inspiring backdrop of the snow-capped Bitterroot Mountains that draw people here. It's all here. beauty, wonderful and hardy people. Festivals almost every weekend for what amounts to no real reason. No complaints here. There is division. There are secrets. There are mistakes. There is fear and the opposite of fear. And there is ignoring. It's a land of extreme left and extreme right. And all the sub-factions therein.
We're different in Montana. We take things a little more seriously, and actually
Montana is no longer considered by law a rural state. We're now a frontier. So you have a hard time imagining Missoula, Montana. We're what's good for San Francisco is not good for Montana. Montana is a frontier by nature.
I'm not happy with the Republicans or the Democrats or anybody else.
you get a chance to throw me out there.
Sometimes they're disincentives to do the right thing. Hear those that agree and disagree, but nobody's ever really disagreeable. I mean, some people sort of lie. But that's what's neat about America is we can do this without fear of recrimination.
This is one of the first people to contact me about the problems of Montana. Peter Pilkey. Congenial, gregarious, charismatic, worldly. The guy's done it all. He wrote the book on fly fishing. Literally. He's frustrated. He's angry. This is Mike Spreadberry. He's probably the most frustrated person in the Bitterroots.
First, my name is Mike Spreadberry. I live here in Hamilton. I've been working on trying to get a federal fire station for the NIH lab, National Institutes of Health.
He's tried everything he can think of to draw attention to the problems that he and a lot of people see here.
Between these two green awnings is the Valley Republic. It's the crime scene for this area. They freely defame people. When I first moved here in 2005, I was pulled over 3 times. None of them were turned out to be moving violations. And so nothing basically stuck. And I felt it was harassment at the time. We're probably at least 20 officers more than we need in this county. And that's a very conservative estimate. The 1 per 1,000 is well broken in this county for law enforcement as a model. Right now we have a reputation because of our law enforcement, because of our local governments. And that's what needs to change.
Hamilton apparently wasn't the only place with these problems. My Montana journey soon took me to the Canadian border, one of the places where Mr. Spreadberry had been in touch with other civil and political watchdog groups.
We're here to talk about the issues, and we're here to do something about lack of proper law enforcement, about increase in crime, and about all the legal issues surrounding things, trying to secure our county. It's just that simple. To freedom of speech and the freedom of assembly, and we believe that if you don't exercise those rights, you lose them. You know, a lot of people believe right now that there are encroachments happening from the Beltway in Washington District of Criminals. If we base what we do on law and order, on the rule of law rather than the rule of men, and having everybody obey the law, including the cops, what kind of shape is the Republican Party in Uvalde County? And we'd like to secure our county first. That's where we have the most power, and we're going to do that by enforcing on the 4 square feet that we stand on the Constitution for the United States. And we believe that's still the supreme law of this land, regardless of how the courts, quote, interpret, unquote, because that was all done by fraud and deception.
The Great Russian Revolution, you know how many people started it and managed it and brought it to its conclusion? Greatest revolution of all time. 13.
The posse came out of the Posse Comitatus of Common Law. And that was strictly for law enforcement in case of a problem. But there's also a provision in there that if you have a sheriff that won't act in the interest of justice, then the people have the right to appoint their own sheriff.
There is no law in the U.S. Code that says you have to file a 1040.
There's a whispering aspen outside of our bedroom. A whispering aspen out in shelters our dreams. Whispering aspen and it grows every summer, letting whisper the whole night through. Whisper the whole night through. Whisper the whole night through.
I was not aware, frankly, of the rapes.
We trust a lot of word of mouth.
The paper's lying about it, the commissioner's lying about it, and nobody will prosecute the ones that they have. You know, that the women are stopping even to come forward.
6 of them reported to his office, and not one of them prosecuted?
We're getting all of the incidents that are coming in, and to some degree, the follow-up on that in a much better format for us to really sit down and look at the crime stats of Lincoln County versus other counties. And that's the whole purpose of this.
We should have accessibility to our sheriff. He shouldn't be running and hiding.
They've upped the staff at Libby at the hospital to deal with rape kids.
He should be telling us what happened, why or why not there wasn't one prosecution.
You know, it's obviously going on, but they're still letting it.
Something is wrong.
The key to winning a battle is not having your opponent know what you're going to be doing. And so you have to do things a little bit undercover. The founders met in secret when they were drafting the Constitution. A lot of the business they had to do in secret because the king had his men out there and their lives were at risk 100% of the time.
Our budget in Lincoln County is up 19%. Do you think I can get one newspaper to report that?
Right. No.
Not going to happen.
Ron Paul started the ball rolling with the exposure of the Federal Reserve. Everybody picked up on it during the campaign. Now it's become a major issue on YouTube, on Google Video, and it's being talked about in blogs nationwide and worldwide. And the jig is up. The Federal Reserve is dying. It's on its way out. It's just a matter of exposure. Enough people get on board. That's what the Tea Parties are all about. I've got to say, I'll bet there's a lot of 4-letter words going on in backroom Democrat circles about the internet and how this information is getting out.
At any rate, we loosely got together like this. We met in the basement of the library, and we pursued avenues with Max Baucus and John Tester's office. They've basically not wanted to do anything. MT Justice, the homepage is a 10-page memoir of a collection of our stories. The Bitterroot Rising is supposed to be a local watchdog site. We have a law enforcement watch. We have a judicial watch. We've got a paper who works with our county attorney. It's all part of one system is basically what I'm trying to say here. They have 15 police officers, only 5,000 people. So in other words, it's like Blackwater USA going after people. It's a private security force to fill the courts.
Here's a town of less than 4,000 people, has 15 cops. 15.
I think the extra population of the outskirts, because they say from bridge to bridge it's like 12 or 15,000, but at least 12. They say that puts an influx of things that the police still need to respond to. There is a lot more of partner assaults and gun presences. That many more people in the bars where there's lots of problems, that many more people driving drunk. I think that is necessitated in their eyes having a lot of times at least 2 officers on duty all the time. I believe there's a need for a lot more policemen than there was when I was younger in the city. The city limits were about the same, but we didn't have all this outstanding growth.
His situation dealt with a DUI type situation.
I was designated driver for 4 or 5 Marines, and as we had a few drinks, I had 2 drinks. On the way to the hotel, I was definitely set up. Officer was driving a vehicle and said that I almost collided with his vehicle. This was a stage situation. He wrote a bogus report.
We call him Super Cop.
Super Cop.
Okay.
Now that's a point where you can recall that sheriff right there.
Well, he's a city cop, and the city doesn't exist.
And the city doesn't exist.
He's
What do you
Corn's-
do then?
He's Corn's warrior. You know, all of these officers are there to fill the courts, harass the people.
Protect and serve has never been heard of here. It's fleece the flock.
I'd rather dial a prayer than dial 911.
There you go. That's exactly
Okay?
right.
That's where we're at.
Well, I started hearing stories, which I really didn't pay that much attention to. There was really no reason. There's always a story in a small town, USA, no matter where you go. Local council, the local police department, sheriffs, and it was one story after another. And it was actually getting to be quite depressing. It really was. It's like you really have to start watching and look behind you every time you went somewhere because you didn't trust it anymore, you know. But I wasn't quite sure because nothing ever happened to me. I didn't really have that much to worry about.
We have a very diverse group of people, and all these stories are coming from everyone. All ages, all backgrounds, all educations. You know, when I sell tarot cards or incense or put up naked art, that probably raises eyebrows or questions.
They send messages, definitely people that are not native to the area they target. Most of who we are in our group are non-native to Ravalli County.
If you can't call the police to help you, who are you supposed to call?
They see you in a restaurant. You come out of the restaurant, you get in your car and you drive off, they pull you over for having a glass of wine.
So we go ahead and leave the Rainbow. We get into her car. She's driving. Of course, I've been drinking. And this cruiser comes up behind us with his lights on, like out of nowhere. So he starts giving her a hard time about drinking. Oh, well, you were swerving, you were going over the line, you were going in and out, which certainly was not true at all. So he's playing this game.
This poor woman, she was out standing in her bare feet in frozen ground. She was on meds. Her husband was handcuffed and thrown in the back of the patrol car because he knew it was wrong.
He threw handcuffs on me because I guess I was getting in the way of his so-called investigation. So they put me in the back of his cruiser until they finished, verbally abusing my wife. His excuse of pulling her over was, and I heard him say this to her before I was handcuffed and put in the back of his car, was that I pulled you over because you were parked too long at the bank club. I was dumbfounded because she wasn't drinking anything.
These police officers with 100 DUIs and all this stuff, if they're not incorporated, someone's got to say enough.
There was an incident with my brother who had moved here to help take care of my mother. He came in to tell me that pretty much that I needed to behave and be nice because the hospice women were upset with me. I had been spending the last few nights at the hospice with there all the time, all that I could be, and I was probably more particular than most people about her care because I saw some errors, but that's a different story. So wrestling ensued. He had me in a headlock. I'm flailing. His glasses flew off. I called the police. They said, well, we have to arrest somebody. They already kind of had that, and we know it's going to be you. The police arrested me, and I spent the weekend in jail. She had to die without me, and all I was doing was wanting to be by her side, the whole time. It wasn't even for the right reasons. I get arrested for their sport. It feels like that, they got the lady who they didn't really like. They made me so scared that I couldn't even go back to the hospital. So it's really actually my fault that I didn't see her. Because I could have just, been really brave. Actually, I got to meet a woman who killed her husband in Darby. That was fun. She's pretty cool. She actually ran hospice for a little while. She said it's all a conspiracy, hospice.
I was enlightened that evening. I was now part of this group in a bad way, and I was really angry, really, really angry. So.
the deputy did this, the deputy did that. But you know, when I was a prosecutioner, I was a public defender, you know, I heard that stuff. I heard it from my clients, or I heard it from the guy I'm prosecuting. I'm sure if you look into some of these accusations, you'll find that they have varying degrees of validity. But there's two sides to every story.
Is it possible that you did assault him? You've made physical contact with him first.
Screaming at me and screaming at me, and I'm begging him to leave. And if I did grab his arm first, I don't think that's assault.
Marie, where'd she go? Right here. She came in from Palm Springs, California, and comes up every summer. Within 24 hours of her arriving in Ravalli County, they had a deputy out there to make an arrest on a 6-year-old warrant that had already been taken care of.
Mike Spreadbury, who is running for mayor right now, and I were in the sheriff's office, and we had what I thought was a fruitful conversation about the citizens and the sheriff's department, how we could come together. Mr. Hoffman evidently was so upset but didn't show it, turns around and ran all the license plate numbers and found out that Marie Malley had a warrant. He went back in the archives to look for this.
They're going to be nice and polite and act wonderful, but then, you know, it seems like when a lot of these people get back to their office, they become like, you know, they're from the Dr. Jekyll, they go to Mr. Hyde. They're like two different people. They put the show on for you, but then when they go back into hiding, they become this animal. This cruiser came up my road maybe to see where I lived, wanted to see what it was all about, wanted to see my gate. Maybe the gate was open. Who knows what he would have done? To me, it looked just like I couldn't for 100% say it was, but who else would be on my road at 11:30 at night? And we're about a good 14 miles outside the city limits of Hamilton out there.
I had attended a city council meeting that night, and I had complained about their police department tactics. Getting ready to go to bed a little after 10 when I let the dog out, and that's when she started barking. There's no bears or anything down. She doesn't bark. She knows all these animals. But anyway, she's barking at something out there in the night. And in my front, right in front of my house, beyond my fence, there was a patrol car. I went out the door and he drove off, went up the street, turned around and came back out in a big hurry, and it was a Hamilton police car. Well, what got frightening is 2 weeks later, after I complained with no success, I appeared at a City of Hamilton function, and the police chief, unbeknownst, he was there. He saw me in the crowd, and he went out of his way to say that he had checked on a complaint that I had made. And he talked about We the People, this group that, you know, just the organized citizens. And he said, oh, I investigated on Mr. Pilkey's complaint. And my officer was out there investigating a hit and run. And that's when I got frightened, because the hit and run seems to be the catch-all term. We heard about a guy that saw a guy that says one time you were involved in a hit and run, and you can be arrested for that.
Like, well, what is it going to take for one of these guys to sit out there with a rifle one afternoon and just take me out on my porch? You know, this is the kind of thoughts that are going through my mind. Maybe he's going to take my wife out, my friends at a party, and then try to accuse me of because now I can believe anything.
I can only speak for myself. Yeah, I can be annoyed with somebody sometimes if they're accusing me of stuff. That's just life.
To the point of trying to silence them?
No, never. And I don't believe anybody in my office has ever done that. In fact, I mean, when somebody says I don't believe, it usually sounds like they're trying to cover someone up. I know of nobody in my office ever trying to do that, ever.
I will do whatever it takes to protect my life, my wife, my property against anyone. We're constantly wanting to be part of the solution. You know, we want to do right. That's not paranoid. We want to talk openly on TV. Put us on radio. We're not afraid of anything. How's that paranoid?
There's some real strange things going on, I think. I mean, I've gotten jumped by a gang of Puerto Rican girls before, you know, for their initiation, and that didn't with me as worrying about a gang of girls come attack me as worrying about my police force.
Right now we have the FBI took our police chief. He's now in Virginia getting retrained, because he covered up a felony hit and run accident that we have a picture of on this website.
I've seen that, yeah.
I was a defense attorney, and there were times when I was down on a deputy or down on a detective or something because I thought they should have done this or should have done that. My point being, I've been on that side of it. As I got over in that office and worked, you kind of work hand in hand with them then, because you're having to call them as witnesses and talk to them again, call them late at night, sometimes on questions before trial. To and large, they're well trained. They're out there trying to do their job.
When I hear from an officer that quit this department here, Hamilton PD, and told me that when they got out of the academy and they came here and they said, forget what you learned in the academy, this is the way we do it here. That's the old West, fellas. You don't do it that way. You don't violate people's civil rights.
I've even seen that down to some degree in Los Angeles Police Department down there, because I was a police community rep for a lot of years down there. The story's, not as bad as up here, not anywhere near. You would think with over 10 million people would be really bad for the LAPD. Nothing at all compared to Uvalde County and Hamilton. Yeah.
I don't know what it's like in nowhere, Alabama, or somewhere, Georgia, or some small town in New England.
They're scared. A lot of people don't want to come forward.
Well, I don't see any reason to be scared. I sure as hell ain't scared.
At times, man, there's so much more rudeness with people than there used to be, and disrespect where people are just up in their face, and I think a lot of times they're exercising some pretty good, whatever the word would be, self-discipline, not to do something that they shouldn't do.
The kind of cop that comes out of a law enforcement academy is much better educated, much better attuned, sensitive, etc., but he's more bureaucratic than in the days where the sheriff says, hell, Billy and I went to school together. I think he'd make a good deputy. You get a different kind of policeman. And there's something to be said for Billy.
A lot of these younger police officers will do something that's maybe not quite right, maybe get a reprimand from somebody, but now it goes from reprimand, and it's like it turns around and they say, well, now you owe me. You do me a favor, I'm going to cover for you, okay? But now you owe me a favor, and it just becomes a vicious circle.
I don't necessarily agree with that last part. I agree with the fact that there can be egos in law enforcement. I'm not so sure that a chief of police, Ryan Oster, or a sheriff, Chris Osman, then goes, I got to back my officer no matter how bad this was because it'll make us look bad. I think if they think the guy should be disciplined, the best thing to do is discipline him. It shows some credibility.
There is brutality with assaults. Induced suicides is what I call it. And then we have no justice.
Lies, cheating, corruption, all this stuff going on.
I can guarantee, and certain people are never going to believe that, there is nothing. There is no conspiracy. We're not out to get anybody. We're too busy doing our jobs, and I would even say honorable to do something like that. And there's going to be people that poo-poo that and not.
They'll pull over defense attorneys on their way back to Missoula, and they'll say, you're not going to defend that person.
There was no lawsuit. I don't have a lawyer. I don't have a lawyer that I could trust.
I've lived here 16 years, and never been treated like what I'm seeing right now.
It's awful to think that we live in the United States and we have to live under this kind of harassment. It's supposed to be a free country.
That's all I've got to say.
I don't doubt that at times a deputy or a sergeant or a corporal or anything else, anybody, has made a mistake. Sometimes maybe because they're young or new, and sometimes maybe just because that situation that we don't see, you just see it on paper, merited it or was a lot more mitigating than it sounds.
Okay, we don't need to be abused for them, followed home at night, beat up, thrown into fires, as one report goes.
I don't know enough about the police because I don't work with them, but I don't believe they've done anything like that. Anybody can say, I don't like that guy driving up and down the road and he's just going to pull you over for no reason to try and give you a DUI. I mean, my God, I've said that before sometimes when I was younger. I have, but I'm not aware of it ever happening.
How does the community perceive this problem? Now, I know
Everybody's
you're
very scared.
Mm,
And
yeah.
this is an underground thing. And we get a lot of winks and a lot of smiles when we walk into places, you know, they're like, hey, we know who you are.
You got people down there that if they've written that many tickets on that many people in that community, you got people down there that are pissed.
Oh, yeah, they are. Better believe they are.
Oh, yeah, they are.
So,
I think that the people here have got to, they've got to stand up to this and do it. It's not, I don't think the help's coming. I mean, it's, like I said, it's being covered up. As far as I'm concerned, it's being covered up in the White House.
I wrote a letter to the President of the United States. I'm going to guess that most of you people have not read that letter, because if you had, I doubt very seriously that you could look me square in the eye. I haven't heard back from the President, but that letter is up there. It's a very heart-wrenching, true story involving a lot of people, and especially the city of Hamilton.
I went down to the crossroads, tried to flag a ride. I went down to the crossroads, tried to flag a ride. Nobody seemed to know me, everybody seemed to pass me by. I went down to the crossroads, fell out on my knees. I went down to the crossroads, fell out on my knees. Asked the Lord above for mercy, help me if you please.
The city of Hamilton is not incorporated.
This little town, it isn't even incorporated. I mean, so that was the first question I asked is, by what right do they enforce the laws of the Constitution of the United States? Who do they swear an oath to, and what, where are my rights?
So as a United States citizen who has sworn oaths before to defend the Constitution of the United States, I would like to put more or less a citizen's arrest on you and ask you to produce that evidence, that piece of paper, that criteria and standard that says that you have the right to enforce, prosecute, and administer the laws of the United States and the state of Montana.
I'd like to know, I have to ask you a question, where the city charter is, when the city is organized, and where it's hanging right now where I can physically see it. Can anybody answer that question for me right now?
No.
I think what happened was they lost the paperwork. That's what I think happened. That doesn't mean Hamilton was never a city and it isn't an incorporated city now. It meant they lost the paperwork.
So cease and desist until such time as you show us, the people, that you have the right to be pledging allegiance to that thing and enforcing and ruining lives and killing people in this state.
So what's the nexus between those paperwork and problems in the city of Hamilton governing themselves?
You have to show proof of incorporation or you don't exist.
Now you think about that one real good. And the mayor, right there, that's the guy. That does it.
Entertaining any personal attacks.
I think it's a tempest in a teapot.
You can't be civil. Please sit down and leave the room.
I apologize to you. The mayor's position is in charge of the police department. And I would advise you to get them off the streets until such time as you prove that you have the right to have them out there. Thank you.
If Hamilton was incorporated, it still is incorporated. Would be really nice if we found the paperwork.
What she don't know is gonna hurt somebody. What she ain't got is gonna break the bank. When she says drive your Cadillac slow and steady, well, you gonna drive your Cadillac slow and steady. She left your love all gone in country far behind. That competition ain't got the resources or the time enough to catch your eye or somehow change your mind, somehow change your mind, change your mind. What she don't say is the same old story. What you don't say is familiar news. What you might have had in mind got complicated and bent into the shape of something that she can't use. She left your love all God in country far behind. That competition ain't got the resources or the time enough to catch your eye or somehow change your mind, somehow change your mind, change your mind. 100 years, the same old story. 100 times, familiar scene. 100 wars for love and truth and glory. One woman walking slow to show you what it means. She left your love all gone in country far behind. Well, did you give your heart and then run out of time? Was there a moment when you could change your mind? Could you change your mind? Change your mind. Change your mind.
And we are truly a reflection of society. We've got fat and skinny, old and young, rich and poor, dumb and smart. There is no literacy test to us, for God's sake. We are kind of a reflection of you, you know?
I don't know if you got a good old boys club down there.
Yeah, we do.
A big one.
And you're talking about secret organizations. That is a secret organization. Sure. And they run the county.
Take your car to the muffler shop. They put on a muffler. You don't pay for the muffler. You don't get the car back. Well, if you feed somebody's horses and you don't pay for the feed, you don't get the horse back. That's called an adjuster's lien until you pay for it. And I said, Sergeant, my name's Jim Shockley. And I think he probably knew who I was. And he says, I got an adjuster's lien on these horses. And, you know, the lady owes $3,000 some bucks. Unless you got the money, you can't have the horses. And this is a quote, I think word for word. We're taking the horses, and if you get in the way, we're taking care of you. Now, if that officer would say that to a white male whose family's been here over 100 years, chairman of House Judiciary, if he's going to say that to me, what is he going to say to some Mexican hitchhiker? You know what I mean? I mean, I'm the last guy in the world he wants to screw with. Well, he didn't get the horses, but called the county attorney. He says, hey, Jim, you got a adjuster. I know that. Tell the deputy.
Ah, the Bolins. The grandparents I wished I'd had.
I think maybe being honest is where we went wrong. We seem to run into a situation that has affected a lot of other people too. As we learned later, we just happened to wind up on the forefront of the fight.
It was really strange, very strange. I testified at the trial.
So what happened with you, Virginia?
Well, I was leaving the animal shelter one Saturday morning, having served my volunteer shift, and I found a watch in the parking lot. And that was the beginning of years of problems.
And you did call the sheriff's department?
Oh, and I called the sheriff's department.
To ask if anybody
had reported a lost or stolen watch, and they hadn't. And something was wrong with the winding stem, so I took it to a local jeweler.
And the watchmaker said, I recognize that. That belongs to Mrs. Seed, I think.
And asked me, where did you get this watch? It was stolen. And he would have the lady call me who owned it, but she never called. And about 3 weeks, a sheriff's deputy called. And he said, I understand you have Linda Seed's watch, and I'll come by and pick it up. And I said, no, you won't. Not until you've proven who it goes to.
We called us a felon right on that first conversation, which really got my back up.
Right after the phone calls, they started cruising the house.
My daughter-in-law said, have Jim Shockley look up the finder's law. Said it varies from state to state. In some states, finders are keepers. You know, I kept waiting for somebody to come to their senses down at the courthouse and quit the harassment and the intimidation.
Once the police get down this path that we're the police and we've been embarrassed, it's pretty hard for cops to ever back off. It's not in their nature.
Later that year, we started getting correspondence from the county attorney. He took the position that we were felons.
The sheriff has to back up his officer, okay? Once the sheriff backs up the officer, county attorney has got to back up the sheriff. So I called the county attorney, and the county attorney, George Corn, and he says, now we want the watch back. I says, well, you know, she wants an apology. And he says, no, you know, we're going to charge her. And I says, that's not really smart.
And shortly after that, they delivered a summons for us, and we wound up going to court. We were just trying to make sure that things were done correctly and that the watch went to the rightful owner. So instead of that happening, Virginia went to jail.
I turned myself in. I mean, they spent tens of thousands of dollars prosecuting and persecuting me. The whole justice system was involved. They even sought outside advice. When Judge Langton threw out the case, they went to people and paid people in other parts of the state to write opinions. Mr. Cohen said, oh, well, that was just covered in their general budget. So money was no expense.
The real reason we brought the suit was that we wanted to make people aware of what was going on. The county cruised our house, harassed us, intimidated us, and never once got in the car, went over and got the woman and brought her by the house. It never occurred to them to do something simple like that.
I think she made her point, and she still got the watch. Nobody ever apologized.
And Mr. Reardon was going to, if he'd had his way, would have sent her to jail for 10 years, state prison, plus 6 months.
Plus
a little extra thrown in.
An enhanced penalty because it was so heinous.
That's just bizarre.
So after he essentially contributed to the cost to the county for all of this, he's given the job as city judge of Hamilton. I'm still madder than hell. And the urge to kill never goes away. But it has more or less soured us on.
We're very careful.
In the valley, and I don't like dealing with this class of people, and I certainly don't like being under their jurisdiction.
Nothing scares the people you're dealing with down there or up here. Nothing scares them more than possibly being thrown out of office. That's the most frightening thing to a lousy politician that there is.
You have to have all of your ducks in a row and all the evidence nailed down to go all the way with it and win in court before you ever file that affidavit and that petition. Push the hot buttons on any of these issues by simply having your speaker, Sheriff Richard Mack, is the guy that beat the Brady Bill, for crying out loud. He's got a reputation of pro-American, pro-Constitution, pro-freedom, pro-liberty. What about when he gets up and the subject of his talk is the county sheriff, America's last line of defense, or the constitutional duties of a sheriff? Just saturate this area with the right kind of thoughts. The rule of law rather than the rule of men.
What do you think the biggest problem of Hamilton is?
Distrust of the local government.
The problem we have is that Max Baucus and George Corn, our county attorney, are best friends. Yeah. And they've been best friends for 20 years.
That's right. I don't know that he is that close to Baucus, but he's certainly a Baucus supporter because he'll support just about any Democrat.
Politicians are only good as their credibility. And if you believe us, you'll kind of go with us. And if you don't, you won't.
I remember seeing some criticism that George was not taking a payoff from Baucus. I would have thought that would have been something more somebody might say, although he isn't that I'm aware of, but that he must be paying off Baucus because he drove an old car, and that's how he, even though he makes supposedly so much money. No, and I'm only throwing this out for humor, but it was like, but he was making money but driving this old car because he's too busy paying off Baucus. And my first thought was, I laughed at him because he had a car like my son, and I said, geez, George, I didn't realize that's why. But to this day, what would he gain from paying him off? I don't know.
So a lot of what we see government doing is being done because nobody's watching at some meaningful level.
One of the problems of being a rural state, your county attorney has supreme power, can almost to the point of being able to make laws, and certainly doesn't have to abide by them, and there's no higher authority to correct it.
We need to become a little bit more aware and educated about the facts and styles of government that arise out of the people who get put there.
You could take things to the state attorney general against the current county attorney, but you weren't going to get anywhere.
It's only us who are responsible for the manner of government that we sanction.
There are individuals who have been in office for many, many years, and they build up their own way way of doing things. They can develop their own little sort of fiefdom within the total picture.
Acknowledge the fact that special interest has weaseled its way into the styles of government at all levels.
The fiefdoms can operate independently, and they can go out and with their cronies and with their friends, and they can develop things that you can see, but you have no control over.
Maybe no government's better than bad government. I don't know.
We waited for years for just the baseline map. What is this valley? And then we could have planned. We could not do it because Betty Lund, as a clerk and recorder, claimed it was her right to own that information and sell it. This clerk and recorder controlled this valley through her job. There's an example of deeds that were turned over in one day and turned into joint ownership with somebody sitting in Betty Lund's office signing them, and George Korn approved it. It goes to George Korn.
We have the impossible situation existing here in the county in that we have two documents that are on public record. They have the same document number, same date of recording, same everything, except they're not the same page.
We have a letter up there written by the sanitarian to George Korn with these deeds and sent to them, to Korn, saying, I guess this is okay, there's no problem here. And Korn writes back, written on it, it's upstairs. Absolutely fine. You guys talk on.
The first one says clearly it's a warranty deed, a statement. The next one has an additional phrase in it that's not on the original document. The microfiche that was released to the public a year apart identifies only one document. But clearly, the public record has been tampered with.
The light's not the best. Oh yeah, there was a lawyer in Missoula. And here.
You'll find out that one group of people were taken all the way to the Supreme Court to prevent them from doing what another group of people were allowed to do, indeed had to have the cooperation of the county courthouse and county attorney. They facilitate it for one group of people, and another group of people they take all the way to the Supreme Court. So if you're part of the clique, if you're part of the power structure, you're able to make literally millions, and other people are prevented from even getting their property subdivided. It depends on who you are, not what's right or wrong, not what the law is. It's simply a different set of rules if you are part of the team.
But these were papers that were sent to the county, to the state
Attorney General.
Attorney General.
There were pressures state line brought to bear.
I don't know what it was.
Newspapers won't touch it. Television stations, they won't touch it. County has been investigated by the state. They realize how deep and the big names that are involved, and they back off.
Warranty deed after filing of deeds from landowner to itself. In other words, they sold land to themselves.
It's no different than any other racketeering scheme. Over and over and over, we do the same things and we get away with it. There are protections in the Constitution or in laws. I think it's called a RICO violation, where you just simply have to break the back of the structure that makes it work. But you got to have, something like the Untouchables or something to make it happen.
People don't get to be millionaires these days that don't cheat.
Normal people don't have a chance. There's a statement right here by Mr. Korn, the county attorney. It simply says, it's not an issue. It's not an issue for those people, but this other group of people, it was sure an issue to him for them because he took them all the way to the Supreme Court to show that you can't do it.
What was that group?
Rocky Mountain Timberlands, Inc. Case number 93-539.
I assume they lost?
They did. And what actually happened was the ruling, it's on page 6 of the ruling, you can go to the internet and find it, it's right there. We affirm the holding of the district court that a landowner cannot divide a large parcel of land into smaller parcels by executing the deed in which the grantor and the grantee are the same party. That's the ruling. Took Timberlands all the way to the Supreme Court and said if you have the same name as the first party and the second party, it's not a valid document. So it's not an issue for George, for Mr. Korn, because he's not the one being hurt.
Well, he beat me for the office in 90. George and I are friends. I think he does a good job. And he comes before the legislature every once in a while, and I always introduce him as the guy that beat me many years ago and that I've been eternally grateful.
So they say, well, we don't trust George because he's going to interpret it according to his political persuasion. Well, I don't know. I don't really know.
When our local government steps outside the boundaries of what is described as legal posturing, then then they become vulnerable to lawsuits. And so, I don't blame them for trying to maintain, their own sense of welfare to keep themselves out of court.
The arrogance is absolutely unbelievable. So you get to jump backward to make it legal. I'd like to have that option on several occasions.
I'm sure we all do.
I'm not involved with Timberlands. I've got nothing to do other than it's just wrong. Well, yeah, this land is actually the pieces that are underneath the stock farm, which Mr. Schwab is a big investor in it.
What is the best possible scenario, and what do you think really will happen?
Nothing. Because until you get somebody with the resources, the legal muscle, it's going to cost tens of thousands of dollars to fight this. It's a drop in the bucket to their resources. Peace is more than the absence of conflict. It's the presence of justice. Well, there is none.
The sheriff, the county attorney, the commissioners. I had to hear from that side, but to no avail. I guess we with George, please. Yeah, could you have call Nico, please?
Hamilton Police Department.
Hi, I guess speak with Nick Painter, please. What's the number here? Do you have caller ID for chance?
Detective Nick Painter. He's not available. He is not in today. He'll be in tomorrow. Would you like his voicemail? Record at the tone. Okay, hold on 1 minute. Let me see if he's available, okay?
Okay, thank you.
After recording, either hang up or press 1 for more options.
I'm the guy that's doing the film documentary.
Want to set up to do a documentary?
An interview with him.
An interview, okay.
Can I speak with Sheriff Hoffman, please?
I'm not sure if he's available. May I ask who's calling?
This is Nico.
Hello, this is Sheriff Chris Hoffman. You reached my voicemail, and that means I'm either on the other line or I'm away from my desk.
I'm sorry, but it does not appear that he is available at this time. I could transfer you to his voicemail. He can give you a call back.
You getting the music? Spando Ballet. I'd like to set up an appointment with him.
Okay.
Yeah. Hi, Nico. Good.
I'm not gonna meet with you. I'm not gonna be part of it.
It's getting all sides of all stories.
I
This side's
understand.
not represented. It look bad.
I understand, but I'm not gonna do it. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for the
That's
offer.
right. You
All
bet.
Of the Hamilton City Hall.
Leave a message at the tone, and I'll call you back as soon as I can.
Good afternoon, Sheriff's Office. This is Sonia.
Nico. All this is getting to be too much. I need a little R&R.
Brain downtown, my body run around, another one in the mix. Everyone heard the sound, what the hell's going down? Buy a ticket, have a seat, take a load on the feet. I can't even disbelieve it. Everybody's got something going on in the head. Cheating, thieving, low life breathing. Every paper that you read, every night on TV.
Tell us what you're doing.
I am slowly picking through a little pile of gravel for little bits of twinkly glass called sapphires. One of those touristy Montana things that we all like. It's just great. It's kind of a strange little thing to actually talk about. Well, what did you do? Well, I peered at little rocks all day. However, there is a purpose to our madness. Look at this. See, there's a little piece of green glass that just springs out, and it's an actual tiny sapphire. Isn't that just cool? Right out of a bucket. Small, yet at the same time, little twinkly treasures. Yeah. Apparently I've had too much coffee. Once you find one, you get a little, your heart beats a little faster, and you find another one, and then somebody next to you finds a big one, and then you really get fired up, and then you're hooked. It's just genuine sapphires from the Sapphire Mountains. You know, I've already got the start of a matching set of earrings. Welcome to Montana, Gem Mountain.
Well, I think the biggest challenge for me here in Ravalli County is, as a sound engineer, is finding a gig that pays. My truck's on a tow-it-home basis. I don't drive it any farther than I can tow it back home again.
There ain't much industry here. Here in this town, about the only industry you have is they support the Rocky Mountain Lab. You know, that's it.
You can trace back the origins of Rocky Mountain Labs just
slightly over 100 years ago to the appearance of Rocky Mountain spotted fever in the Bitterroot Valley. And ultimately, the cause for that was elucidated by an infectious disease physician from Chicago named Howard T. Ricketts. He determined that Rocky Mountain spotted fever was an infectious disease. They were able to transmit it to experimental animals, and that it was carried by ticks. And Ricketts, while in Mexico City studying the typhus outbreak, caught typhus and died. But the people that he brought around him to study Rocky Mountain spotted fever then went on to carry on his work, and those folks ultimately ended up founding what is now known as Rocky Mountain Labs. Much of the yellow fever vaccines was produced right here in Hamilton, Montana. Dr. Willie Bergdorfer was looking at some samples from ticks which had been sent from Connecticut. Willie was an expert in diseases of ticks, and what he would do is they would take these teeny tiny ticks, cut off their legs, put a drop of what was called hemolymph on a slide and look at them under a microscope. He thereby identified the cause of Lyme disease right here in this very same building up on the third floor. Three very important diseases. The etiology of them was not only discovered here at Rocky Mountain Labs, but the agents were named for scientists that were actually on the staff here. Dr. Ricketts, Dr. Bergdorfer, Dr. Hadlow, Dr. Cox. He worked on developing the first polio vaccines.
I think the biggest fear here is like the lack of concern. You know, when you have science who's only interested in science and not the safety of people, you know, I mean, that's what is really appalling here.
They said that it's going to be a forced vaccination and they were going to use the military to enforce it. I would like for you to, I heard this on Fox News.
Yep. 425 employees right now. About a third of those are individuals with doctoral level degrees. Most of them live in Hamilton and probably within 10 or 15 miles.
Well, I guess you couldn't pick a better place. I mean, because, you know, there's only one way in, one way out, mountains on every side of it. So if something did happen, the casualties would be minimal. So
I'd say you're wrong, because there's two ways. There's actually three ways. You know, Highway 93 North, Highway 93 South, and Montana Highway 83 or 38, which goes over Scalcahoe Pass.
You're an hour and a half away from the nearest help.
There's no concern that 40 miles away, would they be helicoptered in? Would they
work here.
Take the 90? Oh, okay.
They're on site. They're part of the Missoula Regional Hazmat Team, and they're dispatched by the regional hazmat team out of Missoula. If there's an incident on site, they would respond on site.
No facilities put in there for fire or hazmat or professionals brought in.
Level A suits and all that stuff is right here on site. As of the present time, there's no fire station on the Rocky Mountain Labs campus. A couple of individuals in the community over the last year or so have raised this issue with the people at NIH who are responsible for fire response, the Office of Research Services. And those queries have gone all the way up to the director of the Office of Research Services. The chief of the Hamilton Fire Department, or the assistant chief, works here, and we have at least one, possibly more, Hamilton Volunteer Fire Department firemen who work here at Rocky Mountain Labs.
You know, you're getting it shoved right down our throat here. I mean, it's like we're coming in, here's what we're going to do, and you got to like it.
In the case of the 20-year master plan, the NIH commissioned a full-blown environmental impact statement which analyzed all the potential impacts, including land acquisition. That is in the master plan, and it's also in the environmental impact statement.
One of the first things they did is they hired local cops to, that was who was going to guard it. You would assume that with the stuff that's in there, that would be, you know, a paramount thing, that, you know, that could be a real bad thing if a terrorist or someone, you know, was to know that was there, and wouldn't be hard to walk in there and do something, would it?
Rocky Mountain Labs has a contingent of 12 fully licensed federal police officers. They work closely with local law enforcement, the sheriff department, and the police department. They frequently get together, occasionally down here at Rocky Mountain Labs, occasionally at the police station or at the sheriff's department.
When you look at who's being probably paid off here, You know, the county officials, the city officials. I called all the federal agencies I knew to call, and of course every one of them said, it's not my job, not my job. So basically, I sent it to the FBI. And they did nothing except call me up and threaten me. So, you know, it's like, what do? I'm just an old fireman. I don't know nothing. They treat me like a terrorist because I complained. I griped, and I'm put on the watch list. You know, that's like, holy smokes, this guy's griping. He's got to be bad. And that was my wake-up call, as how deep the, shall we say, cover-up goes. I mean, it goes clear to very high places.
Well, you know, this is, Rocky Mountain Labs has been in Hamilton, Montana, on this location for close to 100 years. It's a critical and important part of the community, and the vast majority of the citizenry and the local officials that I've come in contact with view Rocky Mountain Labs as an asset in their community.
This is not what we want. I want the government out of my health. This is my body, and I don't want them telling me what I can and cannot do with it.
A national spotlight was on Montana, from it being the forerunner for Guantanamo transfers to Obama's health care reform plan, which was engineered by Montana's own Senator Max Baucus. I went to the senator's Missoula headquarters in the hopes of gathering more information.
My name is Kathy McClure, and I am the Purple Bus Lady. I'm a healthcare activist.
Because as everyone standing here today knows, healthcare in our country is just flat unaffordable.
Because we do have a historic opportunity to fix healthcare.
Do you think Baucus is just using lip service when he says he wants every single American covered?
I think he's concerned with having a bipartisan consensus, and I understand his motivation for that politically. But the question is, are we really assessing reform from a wholesale point of view of how best to really work on fixing our healthcare system? Senator Baucus controls hearings on this subject. He really has an opportunity to get the full story in front of the American public. I think he has an obligation to do that in a responsible way. And I think by leaving the single payer people, experts, out of this discussion, I think he made a significant error in judgment, which he's actually admitted to. But I would invite Senator Baucus to hop on my purple bus for a day or two.
Back in Hamilton, the healthcare debate was just as heated, and Senator Baucus was in everyone's crosshairs.
I'm the hospital CEO, and Senator Baucus's office called the hospital and said, would you host and facilitate this forum for us?
Max is so excited about taking...
Well, Max wasn't there, and that didn't help.
Senator Baucus did record a message, even though he couldn't be here today.
Hello, everybody. Max here. Healthcare reform is my #1 priority. It's why I sent my top staff out to hold these sessions. Our healthcare system is in a crisis. It affects every one of us, from Hamilton to White Sulphur Springs, Shelby, Glasgow. People are literally going bankrupt because of overwhelming medical costs.
I don't know where Max's money comes from. If he was a Republican in that position, a lot of people would want to give him money.
Don't you think that compromises some of his politics?
I'm sure there's some people like that. I know, you know, but a lot of, if you get a whole bunch of money from one particular group or one particular group of people, subliminally it might work that way. But I don't know that anybody's ever shown that Max did something for receiving money. Anybody that got that job is going to get a lot of money.
again, I can't be with you. All the very best. This is going to be a good session. Thank you.
Want to create some sort of a pool so that people can go in and pick from several different insurance plans that will all compete against each other, including a public plan option, to really keep insurance companies' feet to the fire and make sure that they're offering competitive rates to consumers out there. That's good. Go ahead. Okay. I'm sorry. It's embarrassing.
We're too big to fail! It's our money, we want the change!
We know, everyone here today knows, and most people listening, if TV or radio are covering this incredible event here.
The subject brought me out. I've been worried about it since early 1960s. When people were, a few of them were still screaming McCarthyism, using the fear, socialized medicine to scare people off from it. That is so ridiculous. They treat it like it's a bad word. And I also said to Max, you know this is right. That's all.
Baucus is not paying attention. He doesn't have his eye on the ball. We all know that he's getting way too much money from the insurance companies.
If you think you're going to get health care, you know, slap yourself in the face a little bit. It ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen. Because corporate America owns Max Baucus.
I guess what I'd really like to know is when you're going to run against Mr. O'Baucus.
Well, where were you a few years ago when I did and lost?
When I say Baucus doesn't have his eye on the ball, it's why isn't he paying attention to Montanans now, here, in this state?
We don't want health care reform if you're going to do it without us. Because I've written to Max Baucus before, and the only thing I get back is a form letter.
Senator Baucus and his colleagues have taken a very hard look at how health care is delivered in this country and making
You still didn't answer my question.
He's not as bad as some of the Democrats, but I would much prefer a Republican senator.
We're being swift-boated on the airways by the big money, and we're being talking head to death. And Max is ducking for cover. Of course, he has responsibility for that. We have the responsibility to tell him that we voted in 2 Congresses in the last 2 election cycles to not listen to the K Street lawyers, to not listen to the insurance industry. And we expect him to listen to us now.
And I do believe I should have the same insurance as Senator Baucus does.
Amen.
Of course, he's got great insurance. It's federal insurance.
None of you've told us anything we already know.
How many people here want single payer?
No, it won't work. We have single payer now with the VA. How well does the VA work? Single payer will not work.
I think I know Senator Baucus because he did a lot of merits of single payer.
The most powerful senator in the country who has a former employee who works in the White House, a girlfriend who works in the Justice Department, which is awful convenient if he gets investigated by the FBI. Who's going to oppose Max Baucus?
Well, that's a good question.
You started.
I'll tell you.
Yeah, you started off saying we don't want to make people get rid of their insurance if they like. Fine, let them keep it.
If it takes until midnight, you should be here listening to every person.
The only poll that matters is getting 60 votes to pass something.
Yeah, their whole panel up there first with an agenda, and then how much do they really get to hear from the audience?
Pharmaceutical companies, it's about insurance companies. The roundtable discussion ended up being a presentation. That's kind of my wrap of the whole day.
In fact, I had about a 1-minute conversation with him about a week and a half ago in the Capitol, and he basically told me that I asked him to put single payer on the table. He said, no, I'm not going to waste my time and money. And I said, well, maybe it's not your job.
I want to lead into a couple of songs written by a couple of guys who are called socialists. by Joe McCarthy. Who remembers Joe McCarthy? Do I have to explain? And nobody's singing any of Joe McCarthy's songs anymore. So don't let them tell you that single payer is socialism. It's BS.
I don't like lots of people. Missoula's too damn big.
And there are people here who are dedicated to no more development, period. And I'm kind of astonished because I have some friends who are very much against any more development.
You know it's going to grow. You know it's going to develop. There's not a lot that can be done about that. I guess it's trying to do it in an orderly fashion. It just doesn't take away this small town atmosphere and ruin some of the scenery or the beauty of it or the accessibility to all of the things.
Ravalli County being roughly the same size, we could have 8 million people here. It's roughly the size of Los Angeles. Maybe we need 8 million people here.
There has to be a balance, and use the common sense, and sometimes the federal laws stand in the way of doing it the right way. The Endangered Species Act, you wouldn't have shoot, shovel, and shut up if it was working. And when I talk about the difference between urban and rural philosophies, you cannot begin to understand how hard it is to explain a healthy environment to somebody from downtown New York City.
I'm happy with the wilderness. It just ought to be managed. It has to be managed. We need fire in the wilderness. You can start it in April when you have people to watch it and it's moist and it's going to burn slowly, not burn down the mineral soil. Or you can wait till August where Mother Nature starts 100 of them at once. You ain't got the assets and nothing can stop them. It's just stupid.
I point my finger at the radical environmentalists who have pretty much butchered the timber industry and impoverished a whole area.
Is there time? Is there space? I didn't know I was in a race.
Are we in balance with nature?
What a morning, what a day. In my hands, nature's way.
You know, this is my land. Well, yeah, it is your land, but don't you have some responsibility? You know, we're just going to trash it.
The Endangered Species Act is a tool that was designed and has been implemented to take control of land. That's all it is.
With this hammer and with this nail, up the mountains, winding trail, flowers bloom in the bitter root. We're gonna see how the shoe fits the other foot. The other foot.
I think the key word here is stewardship.
I hear the scream of 1,000 teeth. Cloud of dust and the job's complete. I can't believe it's God's design to leave this field of broken pine.
Well, I think we need to protect our river corridors.
It could have easily been subdivided, split up, and have a very negative impact on the resource.
Ecosystem. There's another good word for you.
Riparian corridor is essential to maintain that.
Basically, the setback is a dictated distance from some activity to the edge of the stream. What could or could not happen in that zone. The biggest concern that I heard was a lot of folks were losing opportunity to use their land. The public was going to have a right to cross their land.
The issue does not center around the resource, it centers around politics.
As we, position and posture ourselves individually and as groups, cultures, and against each other at all levels for all of history, and I just don't know when I ask the question, where's the love in it?
Torn between my heart and mind, agony and joy combined. Nothing children left to find, what a legacy. To leave behind.
I care about the vital future of your offspring.
Leave behind.
Don't you?
leave behind.
Can I ask a question? Who decided that no species should ever be allowed to become extinct? Well, Darwinists insist that humans evolved from species that no longer exist. How does it make sense for those same people to claim that all species should be saved? If that had been the case with the species humans evolved from, would human beings be what they are today?
That's the attitude. Oh, we don't care about no future generations. They're not here yet.
There are species, I would venture to say, that existed and became extinct, and we never even knew about them. And what impact have they had on us? I don't know.
How can we sustain ourselves? How can we create and maintain a vital Earth community of human beings and all sentient life?
The ultimate solution is everybody's got to, talk. It's a mutual respect deal, and if it doesn't go both ways, everybody loses.
Because the Earth is a closed system. Last time I checked, there's no stuff coming here from Mars.
Because there are people that care about where they live,
When I build a house, I don't cause somebody to move here. If that were the case, I would still be building 30 or 40 homes a year, and the people would come over the hill and buy it. There's a large group of people that don't seem to, or haven't supported development in our county.
Why do you think that is?
I can only speculate that a number of them have come from somewhere. They found the Bitterroot. It was their idea of utopia, and they really don't want to see change.
This one friend of mine is very open when he says, we don't want anybody else here. And I say, well, when I crossed the Missouri in 2000, when I was coming out here, I tried to lock the gate, but I couldn't. You can't stop it.
Not that they're bad people, but most of the folks that I see that tend to be anti-development have moved here with some resources. A lot of them don't have to make a living here.
There's a standing against the need to plan.
When you got more people, there's more friction between them. You need to have zoning.
I've been through some hot public meetings. It wasn't as bad as pitchforks, but
to keep a watch on these so-called elected officials.
Section 76-2-311-1, which says?
This is a thinly veiled attempt for government to take over the rights of people.
We can.
Okay, good, do it.
Am I clear?
Or
And we're rising up, just to be honest with you.
the city of Hamilton strives to make its government operations fully transparent.
You are not going to tell us what you're going to do.
The only reason that we get more laws is so they can put more people doing stupid things that they don't need to do.
The idea was presented into the community and was rejected wholeheartedly. Ultimately, ending up with our growth policy being thrown out on its ear by referendum.
So the reason we don't have zoning now is because the county commissioners blew it. They got some crazy liberal tree huggers out of Denver to do the plan. These people wanted you to only plant native plants.
This community has historically been very staunch about preserving what people perceive as their rights to, when it comes to their property. And it's not uncommon to hear people say, well, last time I checked, it was my name on the deed.
If my little piece of 8 acres is in that donut,
There is no donut.
or whatever that land is, right, we annex into the city.
There is no annexation plan.
You are making decisions for us that we have nothing to say about, and it's wrong.
Am I going to be allowed to build my blacksmith shop? That's all. I got a permit 2 years ago. I'm building the thing. That's what I need to know, so I can build my blacksmith shop and go on my merry way.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Good deal. I'm out of here. Have fun.
This growth plan has a map in it that has the city of Hamilton's planning area as extending 2 miles outside the city limits.
Just they started sneaking stuff in unbeknownst to people. The people that were going to be affected are the ones that had no idea of what was going on. And
What you got is like a runway belt sander. Have you ever seen that? When the switch sticks, the only thing you can do is rip the cord out, and that's what the growth policy is.
And unless it directly impacts you, you don't get real worried about things.
So to just come into a meeting and start shouting, you know, well, we don't care what you're doing, we just want to stop it.
I think without planning, you end up getting some of what we have in the valley.
If you want fire protection, you can't build in the middle of the woods and then expect me to build a fire station to service your stupidity.
This is, this is part and parcel to why we continue in a divided manner.
And I want to state for the record that if the city attempts to do this, I think they will be subject to a lawsuit. And I think whoever brings that lawsuit will win.
We can all get really emotional about what we feel is important, but if we can discuss the issues and try and come to resolution on what's best for both sides, both parties, I think that'd be best for our community, So.
Most people on opposing views, especially politically, they don't really listen to each other. They wait until the other side finishes making those noises that they make so that they can say what they want to say.
It was a travesty. So the will of the people being usurped. They were clearly not in favor of the subject matter, which was zoning, and the vote went totally against them, even though that there's plenty of evidence to support the masses not wanting what they were proposing.
The council has never discussed zoning. The growth policy has nothing to do with someone's intent to zone.
They today opened the barn door, and the horses are now out. We'll end up in much higher taxes for everyone.
We're elected to have a 50-year horizon. The decisions we make here should be something that looks out to the horizon.
Does this kind of thing happen a lot here?
Absolutely, continuously, and the legislators will not listen to the public once they're elected, especially the liberal Democratic legislators. If you contrast that to the constitutional liberties that we had, as I had as a child, and all the things that went along with it, which were based squarely on the Constitution, there's been a dramatic change.
First, I don't think we have a lot of extreme left or extreme right. I think the extreme left and extreme right are probably more vocal. I would almost think you have maybe 20% far left, 20% far right, and I would almost think more than half of our population would be in the middle.
No, there's a movement going on in Ravalli County. It's called Celebrating Conservatism. The mainstream media and the people that want to create these changes always make the honest thinking citizen think that he's the only one out there that has that kind of an opinion. There's a lot of people in this country that just do not believe what's being told them anymore.
We're all liars at some level, telling people things to make us seem important. And this is what I call creating virtual ground. And so we do this at the individual level and we do this at the group level. And we go off and say, well, we believe in this and this and this, and so we're coming over there to help you get it, because you need it.
You know, we hear something, we get it out on the grapevine, quick. And I think the internet is what's screwing up the powers that be that are trying to corrupt the world, and they can't edit the internet at this point yet.
But I always say, you know why the internet's so successful? Government hasn't figured out how to screw it up.
The biggest challenge with running an independent paper, would be really the corporate competition, I would say. And you have a news media that basically shares the same interest as any other large corporation, like your pharmaceuticals, that share those same interests over a lot of issues, simply because they too are a huge corporation.
What we try to do is get people with different political views to send letters or articles, and as long as they fall within the confines of our editorial policy, which is very forthright.
But I've never been a joiner of parties. And so I don't know if that's helped me in my position by having people not immediately identify me with one party or another in their disputes or whatever.
You know, a Republican or a Democrat, independent, we have these different views, and so I believe they come to the table with their own agendas to push their manners and styles of their beliefs into the community.
I don't believe there's any conspiracy with the paper and us, because I don't think the paper cares about us as much as they're just going to print some stuff. So I don't think they're covering up anything.
Independent, once again, is an important word there. It's not really being guided. No one's really got their thumb on it.
I look at the people who vandalized my distribution sites, the people who went on the Ravalli Republic website and talked about how they went to people who displayed the first edition and threatened them and told them that we're going to boycott your place of business if you keep showing that thing in here. You are very, very weak in your ability to argue your point if you have to deny people the ability to read something that you don't agree with.
The Ravalli Republic, they won't print anything from any person out here unless that's that newspaper. I don't know how that's all governed.
What do you make of all the people that send their letters in? They're not hateful, they're not slanderous, libelous, but they never get published.
There are a lot of crazy letter writers out there.
I've had some of my own letters to go unpublished.
Our letter to the editors is a very strong part of our paper.
No profanity and no libelous statements. If you have accusations, provide proof.
You know, since Lee Enterprises took over or came to dominate, let's say, the Montana Newspaper Association by simply owning so many of the newspapers in the state, a lot of things have changed, and one of them is they no longer give awards for investigative reporting. I've found that interesting. And a lot of times the power that we have is just to put it out there so that people see what's happening to this individual. And that can help straighten things out.
The basic thing is that if they would take one of the crimes and one of the rapes and actually prosecute the people that did it, people might be happy about it. But instead, they keep lying about it. The local paper's lying about everything. There's been 4 suicides in the Yak, and a couple of them were a bullet to the back of the head and no gun. You know, they call them the Montana suicides. I'm just all over the internet, and I got all these stories, and I'm just telling the truth about what's happening to the victims. I wished it was a year ago and I didn't know this stuff. I would give anything to go back in time and not know, because I just wanted to stick up for this one woman that had been raped, that I knew her as a baby, and so I wanted to stick up for her. Well, all these other rape victims come in, and now I have people anonymously chatting me. I have counseling. I'm just a whistleblower. You know, I'm just writing about giving people a voice that aren't heard. I don't have a different side. I'm not a conservative. I'm not a liberal. I'm not a Republican. I mean, to be honest with you, let's come out here. I've never even voted. I don't vote. I just blog. At some point, you're going to lose it, and we will have to take you down. Yes, that means just what it implies. Or somebody is going to get pissed off enough to shut you up permanently. I hope I'm there to see it. So it's definitely somebody within the city court or the district court level system that's stalking me. I've proved it every day, but they know they're above the law. They must know they have the sheriff in their pocket. They must know they have the judge in their pocket, because they are not afraid. And I took it to a local judge, and she refused me an order. And so I came to Hamilton to try to get a protective order, because he lives in Stevensville, like I said, works in Missoula. They told me it was out of their jurisdiction. They refused to give me an order because he wasn't a family member and other reasons the judge gave me. I thought I'd try Hamilton, but I'm not getting any help here either. So I'm not the type of person to just hide under my bed while bad things happen to other people. I'm going to come out and I'm going to fight. And if I lose my life for it, then I do. But I won't die a coward. And I'm not a fence rider. And the days that are here now, we can't. The fence is dissolving. There's no way. You have to pick a side. So if I walk into a room and turn a light on, does that mean I created what's happening in the room? No, I'm just showing a light on it. I don't hate anybody. I'm not anti-government. I'm not anti-police. I'm just the truth. And so that's my mission. This is the truth.
In any town in the United States where you're going to see patriotism in a parade, but the real problems that area might face isn't exposed, and everyone feels good after the experience because we're showing our true colors and our patriotism. However, some of the participants in the parade, and obviously some of the people viewing, may have had judicial issues, law enforcement issues, and have no idea, because they have no context in our area, that that's a major problem and their rights were infringed upon. And by interjecting patriotic things like parades, it further normalizes the problems that we see in our specific area and possibly in other areas of the country. They beat us with our own flag. You know, obviously we want to pay tribute to those who served our country. However, for the residents here, it's just a renewal of the obligation to continue on with the way things are, not knowing that things can get a lot better.
The sidewalk. I walk through the sidewalk every day 5 times.
Yeah, but you're
I can walk down that sidewalk, Tony.
They want us. This is why I want to talk to you. They're trying to get us. No, we're going to do it and we're going to win.
I was going to ask her if she was afraid. You're not harassing if you don't even talk to them. I was going to talk to the camera and go, she is afraid she won't give me her name.
Did you ask
That's all I was going to do.
It? They'll have 5 cars here. They'll take us.
Doesn't matter. If I'm on a public sidewalk,
and they will take the
I can
camera.
Do jumping jacks.
And they'll take the camera too.
I can get damn near naked.
We don't want to do that. Good guy. Hi.
Hi there.
Is Snavely in? Would you be in the library this time?
He'll be right with you.
Thank you. Awesome. All right. Reading this letter before me, the library director has no legal authority to remove a patron's privileges. This is found in Montana statutes as MCA 22-1-311. And Basically, I talk about how she violates giving you guys false information with that letter, which continued today. And it says at no time did I ever cause a disturbance, nor was I ever asked to leave the library, which is on your letter, part of the requirements to finally remove their privileges. I was never asked to leave that library. I see this as 2 possible counts as false information to the police. One today with our contact, and the other one with that written correspondence that was sent to your department.
Okay. Let me just tell you the information I got today from Ms. Langstaff. She said that she has given the authority to affect all policies and rules by the board as the director of the library, meaning that she has the authority to trespass you from the library.
That's not genuine.
I'm just telling
And
you that the
didn't
board
come from the
apparently
board.
has given her permission to do this because that's what she's telling me.
Okay, I'm sorry. The board has to do it, not her. It's very clear. There's nothing in this document that says anything about a library director. It says a board. I know what's going to happen here. Nothing's going to happen, and then they're going to send me a letter banning me from the library, even though there's a sworn affidavit. I'll bet money on it. I brought a letter about your police department, about this area, to the president. That's why I got banned, okay?
I have no involvement in that.
Why did the library director bring a book here?
Based on the letter, it is trespassing, okay?
Based on the letter, it's a crime.
Okay, I'm not going to argue with you.
You're not going to do anything either.
So here's the deal. I'm going to warn you right now.
Warn me?
I'm going to warn you right now. Don't go back to the library.
Until you charge her with 2 counts of giving false information to the police.
Here again, I'll let you finish now and I'll speak.
I haven't been to the library, sir. Don't warn me. You don't have to warn me, okay? Please uphold the law.
Okay. I'm going to warn you. Don't go back to the library or the grounds. It's library property or you will be charged with trespassing. Okay?
Why?
Because you've been given a letter saying that you're not allowed on the premises.
Let's leave.
Okay, let's go.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
Believe that? No, yeah. He said right to me, don't go there. He swears an oath to uphold the law. It's like, can you not read, officer? Can you not read? And you know what I should have said to him? I want to warn you. I'm going to be your boss in 6 months, and you're done. You failed your oath of office right in front of me. Bye-bye, Snavely. This is why we need to vote, so we can get this crap out of this town. So you know what? Screw this library. They're going to be mine in about 6 months. This is why I'm working hard. This is why I'm running for mayor right here. No problem. I'll just work harder and get more votes. No problem.
Several weeks ago, he presented us with this binder, which is a letter to Barack Obama written by, is it Rob Pilkey?
Roy.
Roy Pilkey. And requested that we add it to our collection.
We're trying to bring about change.
Mhm.
So,
A good spot for you?
And we
Yeah.
are
You can sit-
recording you just as part of what you are saying for this document.
this is just public comment. I'm not saying anything special because there's a camera on.
Yeah, okay.
I'm going to say this is definitely creative nonfiction. It's not something I would, present, but it's not unfactual. There's been some pretty unfortunate things that have happened in our area, and my friend Peter, also known as Roy P., has put this into writing. Thank you.
Wow. Okay, good. So you're happy?
Yeah.
With
Absolutely.
What hey, great. Thank you.
Thank you for upholding. This is a First Amendment issue. I want to say that very clearly. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for being interested in it.
All right, you too. Okay. It will continue.
Yeah.
So, where are we?
I always thought that Hamilton was kind of schizo because you got extreme liberals and extreme conservatives and kind of nothing in between at that time. It was really fun. And the letters we got were really fun because we didn't know how to answer them. You were immediately offending 50% of the population down here. But yeah, I got to tell you, Ravalli County is one of the most unique counties in the whole state of Montana. It's fun to come down here. And we are truly a reflection of society. We've got fat and skinny, old and young, rich and poor, dumb and smart. There is no literacy test to us, for God's sake. We are kind of a reflection of you, you know?
I don't believe the Constitution is something that can be debated or that is interpreted. I think it was very well interpreted by the founders.
But that's how many pages this bill has. Are we going to destroy the best healthcare system in the world?
Take me down to the cold and dark water, down where I may see. Take me down to the cold and dark river of my youth, it flows all the way to the sea.
You know, what we face here is no different than what the world is facing. And, you know, we could start here.
Let me swim across the current. Let me swim to the distant shore. Let me swim across into the arms of my lover, till this burning will burn no more.
What I see happening in America today is urban versus rural.
Let her strong arms, let her strong arms hold me. Let her strong arms hold me tight. Let her strong arms hold me till this shaking ceases, from dusk to the morning's first light.
I have to agree. It's just urban versus rural. You know, it's not conservative versus, because it's so funny. I'm not, anybody that knows me know I'm so not Christian. I'm so not, you know, conservative. Those are the people standing up behind me. And I would consider myself more Democrat than Republican, but audacity for change my ass.
I just want to thank this president. I really do. I love Barack Obama because he very quickly created a contrast of philosophies between them and us. Me. I could not have done it as quickly.
You know, the constant bickering and fighting between the two parties is accomplishing nothing.
And the two parties are so close together in so many things. I think we desperately need a third party.
It's one of those things where this guy could be my buddy on 9 out of 10 issues, not really, but we agree on them or something. And that 10th one, we disagree, but somehow it polarizes us, because how could you be that way about that? How could you think that, you know?
You know, global warming is the most monumental hoax that mankind has ever been subjected to.
This is the beautiful but soon to be skinned over beautiful Bitterroot Valley.
People that God can trust, He will show them or give them an avenue in order to expose the truth. From the highest to the least, those He trusts, He will show those that are corrupt. End of story.
Believe in any kind of God you want, but the thing is that we got to quit killing each other over it.
I don't care what group of people you get together, there's got to be some people in there who are
57% of our tax dollars are going to the military-industrial complex. But we pay so much more money than any other country. We couldn't cut the
The Supreme Court's made a big difference in development of democracy. Perhaps their greatest mistake was when they declared corporations to be people. Oh yeah, but it's made up of individuals on the border. Nah.
Whoever interprets the law and how they see it, and you get what you got in America.
The more power the lobbyists have, the more power the corporations have.
We don't even have any information on how much money the insurance companies are taking out of Montana.
The less we know, the easier it is to manipulate us.
People have sort of boiled down the Constitution, into sound bites. Now, the Constitution just means my right to pursue happiness.
Maybe the Alexander Hamilton was right, that only the intelligentsia and the landowners should vote.
Only the landed gentry should
Only
vote.
the landed gentry should vote. He might have been onto something.
The people are not supposed to be afraid of the government. The government's supposed to be afraid of the people. So let's get that situation back.
When the sun is high, when the sun has risen, when the bright sun warms our face, when the sun has risen, bringing light to darkness, they stay forever in this place. They stay forever in this place. They stay forever in. This place. This place.
Blacks voted for Barack because of the historical significance of having a black man become president. And believe me, I don't downplay that. He is destroying the country because he is so radical and I think so anti-American.
You know what? To regard President Obama as a Nazi is so wrong and degrading to everyone here in America.
Right now, this country is in a sorry, sorry state. We're going down the road to socialism.
I condemn you doing it to George Bush. I didn't do it to George Bush. Nor did I do it to Barack Obama. So.
If our side loses, can't we try and support that person to do the best job possible, and then next time he's up for an election or whatever, try and get our guy back in there? But that's the other thing I hate. Somebody else gets elected and all of a sudden everybody's just trying to find dirt on him or trying to make up conspiracy theories, in my opinion, and instead of just trying to work with it.
I don't want to get into that zone of be all freaked out and paranoia and conspiracy theory and everybody's sending me all this stuff. I just want to tell the truth and tell people's stories and really help people and try to help make people's lives better.
We'll just either remain divided and crash, or we'll come together and survive.
I don't want to hate you, and I don't want you to hate me, because that's getting us nowhere. Look at where it's gotten us.
The governor of Hamilton, the whole city council had to go to anger management or counseling or something like that.
The county government's trying to pacify the people by having meetings throughout the county. It's called civil discourse. They're teaching us how to get along with each other. I'm trying to figure out how that's going to help when you have corruption and you have just blatant evil going on in the county.
People have a lot of animosity towards each other, but I don't think it's supposed to be towards each other. I think it just ended up that way because of some kind of scary oppression.
And I think it's all about money. It's all about getting rich really quick and being in power.
Being an American, and traveling all over the world, doing a lot of things, there were some things that I took for granted that I don't have here.
The rule of law rather than the rule of men.
If a stranger pulled up behind me and needed something, I'd rather that happen than a cop. I'm scared to death of the cops.
I say to you guys, reach out a little more. Get to know the people in town.
They're just all in cahoots. That's what it seems to us. That from here, for a large part in Helena, that they're just part of this big group. And once your name is on their blacklist, you're done.
We the people, that's us. We've been labeled as terrorists nationally.
We have been lied to for so long from every level of government that when you get right down here in little old Ravalli County and you see county commissioners who are viewed with absolute distrust.
And I'm doing my darndest to make them very afraid of me. Because I got a big mouth and I'm going to use it.
Evolving, aspiring to become something greater than we've ever been.
I hope that things turn around for the good of the people in Hamilton, but I don't like the government of Hamilton.
I don't know where to come down on it.
There's a pungent south wind blowing in from the camp of continuance, tradition, the enemy of change. That's the biggest challenge in this community.
You can't move forward when you're looking backwards.
We're going to prevail without violence. There's no need for violence at all. Hopefully we all get the right things done to save Ravalli County and save Hamilton, I hope, you know.
That's about our story.
Yeah, it's got to be interesting to tie together the extreme views you're going to get from.
It's hard, you know, keep it fair and get everybody's viewpoint across. It's a juggling act.
And I think the hard part is probably I've learned to be somewhat politically correct and try and stay halfway on the.
Yeah.
I'm not going to venture out to either direction too far.